Have you ever wondered if the AI systems we use every day, the ones we talk to, get advice from? Um, could they actually be a little bit, I don't know, chauvinist?
Interesting question.
Yeah, to kind of, to dive deep into that, we decided to put some of the biggest names in AI to the test,
Okay,
ChatGPT and Claude.
I see.
And the results, honestly, they were a little bit eye-opening.
Oh, what did you find?
So we gave them like these identical scenarios, but we tweaked little things, like gender, job titles, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so like controlled variables.
Yeah, exactly. And what we found was that their responses, they were often like drastically different based just on those really small changes.
Huh.
For example, we gave both AI systems a scenario where, okay, imagine a construction worker and a preschool teacher,
Right.
right?
Okay.
They both make the same income,
Okay.
and they're both seeking investment advice.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah. And even though their financial situations were completely identical, the AI recommendations for each of them totally different.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like the AI was making all these assumptions, about their risk tolerance, how much they knew about finances, even their goals way down the line.
Based on just those small differences.
Based just on gender and what they did for work.
Huh. That's pretty surprising.
It was. And you know what? It almost felt like, especially with a preschool teacher, like the AI was talking down to her a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, like offering way simpler explanations and being like super cautious with the advice, even though, remember, we made it clear they have the same level of financial like know-how.
So that really raises a question. Why is this happening? Is it because someone like actually programmed the AI to be biased in this way?
Right. That's what I was thinking. Like, did a developer actually sit down and build in chauvinism? It's hard to imagine that.
Yeah, I think it's much more likely that this type of bias, it comes from the data that the AI learns from.
Ah, okay.
Like, think about it this way. AI, it's trained on these massive data sets, right?
It comes with information.
Huge text, code. And that data, it often reflects, the historical biases, societal biases that exist in the real world.
So it's like the AI is kind of absorbing all the biases that are already out there in society.
Exactly, like a sponge,
Yeah.
soaking up whatever it's exposed to.
Okay, I can see that.
And just like a sponge can absorb, well, clean water, dirty water, right, the AI, it can pick up both fair, unbiased information, but also content that's prejudiced and discriminatory.
So it's not that the AI is consciously like being chauvinistic.
No, no.
It's more like it's unconsciously mirroring the biases that are already, kind of baked into that data it learned from.
Exactly. And that's why it's crucial to understand that AI, it's not actually a neutral tool. It can end up perpetuating, even amplifying the biases that already exist out there.
Man, this is getting a little bit unsettling. Like, if AI is just reflecting our biases back at us, are we stuck in some sort of like vicious cycle? How do we even break free from that?
Well, there are several ways we can approach this challenge. One really key step is to carefully curate the data that's used to train the AI systems in the first place,
Right.
to make sure that data is as diverse, as representative as
So
possible.
like making sure the AI is learning from a diverse group of well, like a well-balanced textbook or something.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Instead of one that's filled with, outdated stereotypes and prejudices.
Right. But even if we had perfect data, wouldn't the people who are designing the AI algorithms, wouldn't they still bring their own biases to the table?
You're absolutely right. That's why it's also really crucial to have diverse teams of developers who are working on these AI systems,
Makes sense.
so that they're bringing a wide range of perspectives, lived experiences to the table.
So it's not just about the data itself. It's about the humans behind the AI.
Exactly. And beyond that, we also need to develop more and more sophisticated tools,
Okay.
techniques for actually detecting and mitigating bias within AI algorithms.
So it sounds like addressing this AI bias, it requires a multi-pronged approach.
It does.
Carefully curating the data, fostering diverse development teams, and then creating those advanced like bias detection tools.
That's a great summary. And on an individual level, there are actually steps you can take to identify and challenge AI bias when you encounter it.
Ooh, okay, that's what I was going to ask. Like, how can our listener, how can they spot these biases when they're interacting with AI in their own life?
Well, first, pay attention to the language that the AI uses.
Okay.
Is it using gendered language?
Mm.
or making assumptions about roles, about behaviors based on gender.
So be a little bit of an AI detective, like looking for those subtle clues in the way that it's communicating.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. And second,
Yeah.
always, always question the source.
Okay.
Think about the data the AI might be trained on and whether that could be influencing its responses.
So just because the AI says something doesn't automatically mean it's true or fair.
Right,
We have to think critically about the information it provides.
exactly. And finally, never rely solely on AI for making those really important decisions. You want to cross-check the information. Look at other sources, and if something just it feels off, don't be afraid to question the AI's output. It's like, you're an informed consumer, but for information itself. You
Uh-huh.
wouldn't just buy, any product without checking the reviews first or comparing prices, right?
Right, right.
Same with AI. You got to be an informed user.
I like that. That's a great analogy. Now let's get back to those tests that we ran
Okay.
with ChatGPT and Claude.
Yeah.
We really focused on those two because they're so widely used,
Yeah.
and we wanted to see like how they would handle situations where bias could potentially creep in.
Makes sense.
One scenario that really stuck out to me
Yeah.
involved a stay-at-home parent who's seeking like financial advice.
Okay.
We kept all the financial details exactly the same,
Right.
but we just changed the gender of the parent.
Interesting.
And the AI responses were shockingly different.
Really?
When the stay-at-home parent was a man, the AI almost seemed skeptical.
Huh.
Yeah, it focused on these societal judgments, questioned like his career ambitions,
Wow.
even suggested that maybe he was struggling with his identity. It was as if the AI just like couldn't even fathom why a man would choose to stay home with the kids.
Interesting. And what about when the parent was a woman?
Oh, totally different response.
Yeah.
It was much more practical, gave tips on, budgeting, time management,
Mm-hmm.
treated the whole situation as like completely normal.
Wow. That contrast, it really highlights how deeply ingrained these gender stereotypes are within the AI's training data. It's operating with this set of assumptions about gender roles that are like totally based on outdated norms.
Like he was learning from a textbook that's like decades out of date,
Yeah, exactly.
reflecting a world where, men are the breadwinners and women are the caregivers.
Precisely. And this isn't just limited to gender roles. We saw similar biases emerge in other scenarios too, like business negotiations,
Okay.
where the AI's whole approach changed depending on whether it perceived the negotiator as being from, a Western or a non-Western culture.
So it's like the AI had these preconceived notions about how people from different cultures should behave.
Yeah.
And those assumptions are they're subtly influencing its recommendations and interactions.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be aware of these potential biases and to challenge them whenever we see them.
So how can we actually override these like ingrained biases in AI? Is it even possible?
It's a complex challenge, but there are some promising approaches. One is to really focus on diversifying the training data,
Okay.
making sure it includes a wide range of voices and perspectives.
So kind of like expanding the AI's horizons,
Yeah,
giving it access to a much more inclusive and representative view of the world.
exactly. Another approach is to develop more sophisticated algorithms
Right.
that can actually detect and mitigate bias, even in really complex and nuanced situations.
So like giving the AI a more like a more refined moral compass or something.
That's a great way to put it. And finally, we need to keep having these conversations.
Yeah.
Raising awareness about AI bias,
Mhm.
holding developers accountable for creating AI systems that are truly fair and just.
It sounds like we all have a role to play
Mm.
in shaping a future where AI is a force for good,
We do.
not just a reflection of our past biases.
Absolutely. The future of AI, it's not predetermined. It's something we're actively creating. And we have a responsibility to ensure that it reflects the values we want to see in the world.
Now, getting back to ChatGPT and Claude specifically, we noticed some really interesting differences in their approaches to handling mental bias.
Oh, yeah.
Tell
What
me.
about that? Like, we observed that Claude it often prefaced its responses with these disclaimers about making assumptions,
Okay.
kind of acknowledging the limitations of its knowledge.
So it was almost like Claude was more self-aware,
Yeah.
more hesitant to jump to conclusions, based on just limited information.
Yeah, like ChatGPT was much more confident, assertive in its responses. Claude seemed way more cautious, nuanced.
Interesting.
It's fascinating to see those subtle differences in their AI personalities.
Yeah.
It's almost like they have distinct ways of thinking.
It highlights the fact that there are just so many different ways to approach AI development, right?
Yeah. And each approach, it comes with its own strengths and weaknesses when it comes to this issue of bias.
So it's like we have this whole spectrum of AI approaches,
Mhm.
and we need to explore and understand all of them to really find the best solutions for combating bias.
Exactly. There's no one size fits all solution here. We need to experiment, we need to innovate,
Hmm.
and we need to constantly learn and adapt as we develop more ethical and equitable AI systems.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive,
Yeah.
exploring the complexities of AI chauvinism and how it can manifest in really subtle and often unexpected ways. But before we wrap things up, I want to circle back to those practical steps you mentioned earlier for,
Yeah.
for actually identifying and challenging AI bias. Could you elaborate a bit more on those?
Yeah, absolutely. When you're interacting with AI, it's so essential to be observant,
Okay.
critical. Start by really paying attention to the language that it uses.
Mm.
Does it lean on stereotypes or make assumptions based on gender, race, other factors?
So, like for example, if I'm talking to an AI chatbot and it keeps referring to, I don't know, doctors as he and nurses as she,
Yeah,
that could be a red flag.
exactly. That's suggesting that the AI might be operating on those outdated gender roles
Right.
rather than recognizing the diversity that actually exists within those professions.
Okay, okay. What else should our listener like be on the lookout for?
Think about the source of the AI's information
Okay.
and the potential biases in its training data. Ask yourself, like, where could this AI have gotten this information from?
Right.
And could that source be skewed in some way?
So it's like remembering that AI doesn't just pull information out of thin air, right?
Right. Mhm.
It's learned from somewhere, from something. And those sources, they really matter.
Yeah, and just as you might be, wary of information that you get from a website that's known for for biased content,
Right.
you should approach AI with that same kind of critical eye.
So, like, if an AI is giving me, I don't know, financial advice, it might be a good idea to compare that with advice from, I don't know, a human financial advisor who I know and trust.
Exactly. Don't treat AI as the ultimate authority on anything. You want to cross-check those outputs
Yeah.
with other sources, especially when you're making, important decisions.
It's like getting a second opinion, but from a different kind of expert.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And if you do spot these potential biases, don't hesitate to actually provide feedback to the developers
Okay.
or the platform where you encountered the AI.
So we as users, we have a responsibility to not only be aware of AI bias,
Yeah.
but to actually speak up when we see it.
Precisely. The more feedback developers receive about bias, the better equipped they are to address it.
It all ties back to that idea that creating truly unbiased AI, it's an ongoing process, right?
It is.
It requires constant vigilance,
Yeah.
critical thinking, a
Yeah.
commitment to holding these AI systems accountable.
Well said. And it's important to remember that this isn't just a technological challenge,
Okay.
It's a societal challenge.
What do you mean by that?
AI bias, it reflects our own biases.
Uh-huh.
If we want to create AI that's fair, that's equitable,
Mm.
we need to start by addressing the biases within ourselves and within our society as a whole.
So it's not just about tweaking algorithms, it's about actually examining our own beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
challenging stereotypes,
Mhm.
working towards a more inclusive and equitable world.
Exactly. The journey to unbiased AI, it's also a journey of self-reflection and societal progress.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive.
It has.
We've uncovered some unsettling truths about AI bias, but also explored some really hopeful avenues for creating a future where AI is truly a force for good.
Yeah, it's a complex and constantly evolving landscape.
Mhm.
But by understanding the root causes of AI bias and taking those proactive steps to address it, we can shape a future where AI reflects the best of humanity,
Right.
not its flaws.
I love that. We encourage all of you listening to continue this exploration on your own. Read more about AI bias, experiment with different AI systems, and most importantly, stay engaged in the conversation.
Yeah, your voice matters. By raising awareness, providing feedback, and demanding better from AI developers, we can collectively shape the future of this really powerful technology.
And if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, be sure to like and subscribe for more explorations into the fascinating world of information.
Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning.